My name is Darren, and I own and operate Ball Transport.
Idaho BDR 2.0, Day 8, Johnsons Bar Campground.
Alright, Day 8, Idaho BDR 2.0. We already left Darby. Now we're in Hamilton. Getting ready to head and stop by a little place in Hamilton to get some necessities, and then we'll be pushing on to Lolo, get groceries for the evening before we go hit Highway 12, which is supposed to be a premier street ride, and we're gonna go find a camping place off of that route. So day is probably gonna be mostly pavement, so we'll see you on the road. Parallels the Loshsa River. The canyon remains much the same as it has been through the centuries. Narrow, rugged, the river lined by evergreen trees and rock outcroppings. Over the millennia, the Nez Perce people lived, hunted, gathered roots, camped. They traveled across the ridgeline route north of the highway to hunt buffalo. Is also an area of the Lewis and Clark Trail. I really enjoyed this trip. Brian, Brett, Moonman, Caleb, we all had an awesome time, and really glad we took this trip this year. Sure miss Kevin on the later days. It was a huge landslide. I'm glad we got there when we did, because they were just finishing up cleaning it up. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to get to the campsite. Alright, so we made it super dope. Right along the river. There's a beach right over there. Couldn't camp on the beach because there's no camp spots, but we got this place. It's extra dope. Day 8 off Highway 12. Yes, sir. Camp is set. Got my hammock, bike, my tent. There's the river. Going down, going down. It's a little walk through the rocks to the river, down by the river in a little tent. Here we are, right in it. Whoa, don't fall.
Now I should have bought the water shoes for exactly this reason.
On my way over to the beach. Nice little path carved out of the rocks. Some ducks. We are here at the beach.
You're thinking about it.
I was basically laughing for an hour straight.
Found a little bird. Well, it's not a little bird nest. That nest is huge. It's in the middle of those trees. I'm shooting this video right now. I'm getting the hell of bats. More light required. Day coming to an end. Barbara rides out. Now the full interview.
Darren, and I own and operate Ball Transport. Probably around 2007 or 2008, a buddy of mine started going to Glamis and buying the bikes and doing all that stuff. About that time I bought a 08 YZ450 and started going out to Glamis and riding with that whole group. Got the truck and the toy hauler, and just did that for about 5 or 6 years. Just doing the Gorman and Glamis and all that, riding around the California desert, that area. So that kind of was a start on it. And then that all died off, and about the last 7-8 years, it just sat in the garage doing nothing. And here we are. We started riding again. Well, funny story. My wife and I were out in Vegas a couple years ago, almost a couple years now, going to see Luke Bryan concert. We were staying at the Vidara in Las Vegas. We were getting a taxi that night to go down to the show. As we walk out to the taxi line, my wife notices another couple standing there, and she thought she cut them off. So she's like, "Oh, you guys ahead of us? You want to take the cab?" As it rolled up, and it turned out to be Brian and his wife, Ramy. We're like, "Oh, no, you guys go ahead." And he's like, "Well, where are you going?" Turns out we were going to the same concert. So they're like, "Hey, you want to share a cab?" So we're like, "Okay, let's share a cab." So we took a cab down to the show that night, went to the concert, hung out, did our thing, maybe stayed down there an hour and a half or so after the concert ended, and go to get back in a cab line to go back down to our hotel. And sure enough, at that time, there they are again, getting a cab to go back to the same place. We're like, there's something weird about this. I mean, what are the odds? So we got a cab, shared a cab back to our place, and my wife, she's more outgoing than I am, so I'm more the quiet one. And she was like, hey, you guys, you want to go to dinner? You know, we're going to have a reservation at Javier's tomorrow night. So we invited them to dinner, and you know, and usually you invite people and nobody goes. They're like, they're just fucking. So we called them up, said, come on, let's go. Sure enough, they showed up at dinner at Javier's, and we sat there and talked for 4 hours. And I think from that point forward, we kind of knew we were all going to be friends. And then, you know, from there, then found out that Brian rides bikes, and he was into adventure bikes and just dirt biking and stuff. And I'm like, well, hey, I got an old YZ in the garage. Let's break that thing out. So first thing I started doing was riding again at Cal City, and then that's where I met you. And we were riding out there for the first time. And then I think we were out, God, what was it, maybe 6 months ago, doing brunch. And I'm talking about maybe getting an adventure bike, maybe doing something, and then he mentioned this trip. I'm like, oh God, I'd love to do that. So I've been looking for a while in Marketplace and trying to find a bike, and the Tenere 700. We were sitting out at brunch, and all of a sudden we're kind of looking, and we see one for sale in Rancho Cucamonga, which is not that far from my house. It was listed, and we're like, man, he's looking at this thing, it's like 450 miles, it's 6 months old. The guy was selling it already. Because if you don't get that, go get that bike, you're an idiot. So I stopped on the way home from brunch, and sure enough, I went back, saw that bike, ended up going back the next day and buying it, and then that was that. They got the bike, and then a giant list of things from Brian that I needed for the bike to make this trip. So let's just say after lots and lots of money, here we are sitting in beautiful Idaho, riding the Idaho BDR with a bunch of friends and new friends, and just having a trip of a lifetime. So yeah, he invited me on this trip, and you guys all know him, and some of you have been on the trip before, and I've met you before, obviously, out in Cal City, and done some other rides. And then I met some new people, obviously, on this one, Caleb and Brett, and hopefully some new friends now, and we'll be doing it again in the future. And it's been one heck of a great trip, and what an experience, just to sit out here. And you think you see stuff like this, but you know, you see it in pictures or whatever, but not till you get out here and ride around and sit in the middle of it, you realize that, you know, such places like this exist. So it's just mind-blowing to get out and experience this. Road closed signs, no, you're supposed to just go right around those, right? And then you end up in a giant rock slide.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Then you have to take your brand new adventure bike that you've barely been out on over a massive rock slide and trees, and drop the sucker 3 or 4 times getting through there. And it was nice because then it just got it out of the way. But yeah, that was a heck of an experience getting through that first day, first run, end up in a thunderstorm and going through a rock slide. But you know what? It was a great experience, and we made it through. And then I got to do that river crossing, and off to Deadwood we went. So that was a good time.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Cheese studs. Cheese.
Got something in his mouth too, or his mouth. Yeah, that's not a ball legal. He's got like an osprey or a fish hawk.
He had a fish.
Nope, the ball legal. Woo!
Hey. Look at Mr. Brad. Go, Barber.
That's Barbara Fades, motherfucker.
That's Seth Fades. Seth Fades. Don't even mess with Seth Fades. This Rough Riders fucking bandana on.
Whoa! Don't fall there, buddy. Don't fall.
Damn, I should have bought the water sheets for exactly this reason, but we'll get it. We're getting there. Do me a favor.
Thank you. I'm gonna record you and do favors.
Just turn it off.
Idaho BDR 2.0. Day 8. Fuck you. Johnsons Bar Campground.